Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, this one is a little bit out of my field today because we are going to be using alcohol inks. Now, I don't use these very often. I have a couple of different kinds here. These are the Marabou inks, and then I also have some of the Ranger, the Tim Holtz inks, just a small selection. I probably have about, 12 or 13 alcohol inks all up, so I don't have too many, so that's what we're going to play with today, and I'm going to show you a very cool technique. Now, take your Yupo paper and scrunch it. Scrunch, scrunch, scrunch. Just keep scrunching it. The more the better. This is a fun technique and there is no perfect to this. Now I don't find alcohol inks particularly easy to work with because they are so unpredictable, and this changes that a little bit for me. It changes the outcome, it changes what I'm able to do, and it's not quite so mucky, honestly. So I'm going to have a whole lot of fun today and show you a couple of different ways to do this. Now that is just a few pieces of scrap paper that I'm putting underneath to protect my work surface. I have chosen some blue inks, bluish, greenish sort of inks, and I have a piece of handy towel or paper towel here that I'm going to use, and I'm going to sort of colour in the whole background. Now this is going to be all sorts of uneven because you've got the creases and everything. If you want to, you can leave some of the spaces white. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can sort of layer up as you want to go. Sometimes I find if you leave the ink there for a minute, it settles in and you get more of that colour. This one was a little bit too close here. It was pretty much the same colour as what I just put on. You can dab, you can swipe, you can just move it around, you can leave it as is. I did get some on my fingers there and I was looking at it. I had somewhere I needed to be in the afternoon, so I was trying to keep my fingers clean. So anyhow, I just dab it around, and this part is just all play. Once I had the whole background covered, I knew that I was sort of happy with that, and anywhere from here was just good. So I'm going to add in a little bit of yellow. This is of course going to cause a little bit of green, but if you leave the yellow to sink in for a little minute, then it's going to actually have that yellow kind of background. But I did end up sort of dabbing mine around, and so it's going to turn green, of course. But if you leave it there, alcohol ink sort of replaces what's underneath it with that colour rather than sinking into one another. So you'll see where I've got that big patch there, it ends up being more yellow in the centre. So that's just a hint. If you want it to stay yellow, then leave the ink there for just a few more seconds than you otherwise would. But if you want it to be nice and green and melt in, then you can have that too. But I don't want to cover everything. This is just sort of a hodgepodge here, there, and everywhere. And at this point, I probably didn't know when to stop, and I didn't really know when I wanted to stop. And that's okay. I was just having a really nice time creating sort of blues, yellows, and greens background. And that's all it is. I'm using the same paper towel. I've not changed it since the beginning. And just, moving it around. Sometimes I dab, sometimes I swirl. Doesn't matter. I kind of wish I'd stopped here, but I keep going a little bit further, but I promise you this is going to look gorgeous. Now, from here, the great thing about this is that alcohol ink is going to dry really, really fast. Also, with alcohol inks, you can try doing it on different types of papers, like vellum or Photopolymer is another good one that you can try with alcohol inks. But I had a couple of sheets of Yupo, so I've gone with that for today. But definitely try something else if you've got it. So that is number one. I'm going to put it aside to dry, and we're going to do a pinksy orangey sort of one, just because I wanted to try a slightly different technique. So instead of scrunching it, I'm going to use the scoring blade on my trimmer, and I'm going to just score in all different directions. I know this looks a little bit crazy. Now this works better on cardstock, honestly, but the Yupo paper, it wasn't making super deep indents, I guess. And so although I could kind of see them, and you can sort of see them here on an angle, I did find that I needed to add a few more, so I will fold this in different sort of all sorts of wobbly directions, but the fun thing is the world is your oyster. It doesn't matter. This was really just trial and error. I was having such a fun time doing this, and I absolutely love the results. They are stunning. I wasn't expecting to love it quite so much because I didn't think I had the right tools for the job, but it just proves that if you have a play, you never know what can happen. Now this one here, I hadn't even used this one before, and so the top was not cut off it. So it was not going to come out. Instead of cutting off the top and being productive for next time, I just decided to tip it out of the bottle, and that's okay too, because yeah, just getting the job done. Again, I take a fresh paper towel this time, and I'm going to sort of rub this as a base layer mostly all over the background. I like this because there's just no perfection. It doesn't need to be perfect. There's no sort of rhyme or reason, and it's really just having fun. I decided to crease it the other way as well, just so there was a few more little creases, because I saw that those, the first time I folded it, those have picked up a lot more with the alcohol ink, so I think that worked better than the scoring blade, but that's okay. I'm adding oranges, sort of pinks, sort of reds, yellow I think I might even add in this one, and you can see that if you leave it there a little bit longer, it will replace the ink underneath it. I'm getting just sort of a rough background, and that is the perfect thing about these, is that they don't have to be a certain way. Now, I think this would work really well for any backgrounds, honestly, even just inks that you had done on cardstock. Now, I haven't tried it, but I think that it would work really, really well as well. So here you can see the yellow. I left it a little bit longer, and the ink sort of sunk in and has stayed yellow, and I dabbed instead of rubbing it everywhere. So I quite like that. I think it provides some really good variation as well. Now, at this point, I just don't know when to stop. I was just really having a good time, but as I said, the great thing about this is that it's going to dry super, super fast, and we can move on without having to wait for inks to dry or paints to dry or anything like that. So that is one really good thing. But anyhow, there's the background, and at the moment you're thinking, well, that's interesting. Yep, unique, nice, okay. But just hold on, bear with me. So from here, I wanted to try a few different products that I had. But at the moment, these sheets are quite big, and as I said, I want to try some different products. So I'm actually going to cut these sheets a little bit smaller, and that way we can use them and stretch them over more projects as well. But truly, these took like 30 seconds and they were dry. There's not actually a lot of alcohol ink on these backgrounds, and they dry really, really fast. So that is a bonus. This one I decided to do long ways just because I thought that that might provide some inspiration. I also think that these would be really fun to die cut out of. I'm seeing some gorgeous leaves and things I'm thinking that I will do with the leftovers that I didn't create into a card today. But the products that I have to work with are three that I sort of could find. Now, one is the Lunar paste. This is the Slippery When Wet Lunar paste. I have an Inca Gold, and then I also have a Prima one, and I just wasn't sure at this point. Now, this Inca Gold is actually really, really dry, but all I do is give it a squirt of water and it keeps going. I bought these years and years and years ago, and I suspect that they are not sold anymore, and maybe even the same with these Prima ones, but I do really like the this Prima one here. I have a few of them, and I do really like it. So I'm going to try that first and see how we go. So I put a little bit on my handy towel, my paper towel, and I'm actually just using the same paper towel that I used originally. So I'm just going to sort of roughly pop it over top of the background that we created, and I don't want too much on there. This is really just a highlighting. Now, I will say that this shine here is stunning. It is absolutely stunning. But I think that the cracks and crevices and things weren't quite enough for me. This isn't quite what I was going for. So I do like this look. I can see myself being able to use this, but this wasn't exactly what I was headed for. So for this one, I'm going to use the blues, and I'm going to try a couple of other things on this one. So this is the Slippery When Wet Lunar paste, and spoiler alert, this one is my favorite. This one is the best because I just did a tiny wee bit and it's catching, and I'm just using a tiny little bit of the Lunar paste. I don't want too much on there because this is really just a highlight. It's not to create a background coverage. It's just to highlight all of those gorgeous little lumps. And look at this, when I turn it in the light, oh, this was so stunning. I absolutely love this look. I was just so happy and giddy at this point. I'm going to try some of the Inca Gold on my finger in the silver. I didn't have a gold version of it, and I quite like that too. It works really, really well. It's more of a wax than a paste, but I did see it working really well, and I was happy with the results. Now, when I put it on this background, I like this one much better on here. more so than the Prima one, because the Prima one was kind of quite dark, and so when it wasn't being shined, it looked dark, whereas the Slippery When Wet, the Lunar paste, is just always really bright. This is stunning. This was absolutely beautiful. I was just so happy. I had a big smile on my face at this point, and I thought this was exactly what I was aiming for. So I'm going to stick with the Lunar paste. It would be interesting to do this with different colors. For example, if you used a bluesy or a greensy Lunar paste on this one and sort of saw how that came out. I mean, the options are truly endless, but I was having an absolute ball at this point, creating some nice big sort of cracks and crevices and all sorts of texture. This is a whole lot of texture, which I absolutely love. Just look at the shine. I could do this endlessly. This was so much fun, but I want to turn it into a card for you just to show you. But I wanted to keep all of that gorgeous texture. Now, you could absolutely flatten these out more, flatten them out, and I think that would just look stunning on a card, because the texture still looks like it's there, but I wanted the actual texture to be there. So I'm going to add a little bit of double-sided adhesive, a sheet of it, onto the back of some white cardstock, and I'm just going to die cut out some of these Dainty blossoms from Pinkfresh Studios. I have had these for years and I really like these. They're definitely not new. I believe they're still available. As usual, I will link to all the things I can find down below in the description box. There are also lots of good bits of information down there. Don't forget, there is my snail mail address, my mailing address that you can mail a card to if you would like to. I would love to receive them. And I also have some videos where I put your cards, we do a mail call, and I have got another one of those coming up really soon, and I hope that you can see your cards on here. That would be exciting too. I also have a link to the Buy Me a Coffee if you would like to support my page and appreciate these videos, and you're able to. I so appreciate your support. The other cool thing that I have down there is a link to our Facebook page called Come Crafting with Natasha. It is a great place to be. We have such an amazing community, so supportive, and it's growing very big. I'm really proud of it, and I'm really grateful that we have that space that we can all be in. So I appreciate that. If you would like to share images of your projects that you have created, we would love to see them there. Now, at this point, I have got a rectangle of this gorgeous background that we have created. I have cut it into 4 very uneven random shapes. I have got a 3.5 by a 6-inch sort of slimline card here. There's a name for these, and I'm forgetting it right at this minute. Now, I did not measure what size my coloured cardstock background was, because this is there's a lot of texture. These are definitely not even remotely flat. I didn't want them flat, and so if you want them flat though, that's an option. I would just put some double-sided adhesive sheets on the back of these and plop them down, make sure they're nice and flat. It's going to look beautiful and full of texture because of that gold that we caught all of those raised pieces with, but I want to keep it very full of texture. So I'm using these die cuts, and I'm just adding a little bit of interest into these. So I'm going to pull out all those centered little pieces, and these have all that sticky back because they have the adhesive sheets on it. So it makes life really easy. It is a very strong adhesive, so I know that these are going nowhere. Now, actually, here's what I did to keep the texture. I did not want these flattened. If I did, I would have put like some books or something heavy on top of this. But I used some liquid glue, and then I actually went through and I added some mint tape. So this is low-tack tape. This is the 4-inch roll, which I find very handy. I wasn't sure that I would love this 4-inch roll, but I certainly do, and I've used it a lot. And if you need smaller pieces, just rip it up. So I'm going to put that tape on there to hold it and let it set up and dry really well. In the meantime, I have a strip of cardstock and the Gina K Designs. This is the Big Birthdays, I think it's called. I know you've seen this in almost every single one of my videos, but it's my new happy birthday stamp. And as I've said previously, when I get a new birthday stamp, I just use it and use it and use it, because birthdays are definitely what I mainly create cards for. I definitely find that's my most popular that people grab for. I have taken that gorgeous little birthday wishes, the birthday wishes sentiment. I'm popping it on a little bit of gold cardstock. This is our satin gold cardstock, and I am going to give it a very, very fine border because remember there is that gold in the background, and this is a very, very simple and gorgeous card, but I just wanted to quickly show you what I would do with these gorgeous backgrounds, or just one option. There are so many options. I could have kept going, but my videos are getting longer and I want to keep them nice and short. So this is my card. I absolutely love. I could barely stop moving this around to catch the light. This is absolutely stunning. So I hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial. I hope that this is something that you will give a go. This is something a little bit different for the alcohol inks for me. Perhaps you could trial it out and see how it works with other products and things. I have a couple of videos on my channel where I did the same except for using embossing powder instead of the gold paste. That works perfectly too. So anyhow, thank you so much for joining me. Remember, all those links are down below in case you are interested in checking them out, but I will see you in the next video. Thanks, bye!